President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, led on Thursday the balance of the military community brigades for education and health, pre-comiles. In this context, he called on all Venezuelan people to offer their absolute support to the Bolivarian National Armed Forces. In another setback for the Argentinian government, the Senate overturned on Thursday President Milei's veto on the law to distribute national treasury contributions. And humanitarian organizations in Haiti denounce an escalation of violence on the northern coast of the country amidst the crisis of insecurity plaguing the population. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, led on Thursday the balance of the military community brigades for education and health, pre-comiles. In this context, he called on all Venezuelan people to offer their absolute support to the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, which in a cohesive and patriotic manner is deployed in defense of the sovereignty and security of the Venezuelan Caribbean. The head of state affirmed that Venezuela is obliged to defend and exercise its sovereignty. In this sense, he stressed that the exercises carried out as part of Operation the 200 Independence Operation is taking place in Venezuelan territorial waters to reaffirm the country's legitimate right to protect its territory. President Maduro also denounced the fact that behind the false narrative and threats promoted by the U.S. empire, there is an imperialist plan to effect a change of government in Venezuela. A recent survey conducted in Venezuela revealed that 89% of the population rejects the U.S. aggressions and supports the defense of national sovereignty and independence as well. Precisely, the most recently survey conducted by pollsters Data Viva between September 1st and 15th reveals a solid consensus of Venezuelans regarding the defense of sovereignty and a marked rejection of Washington's attacks. The result indicated that almost 9 out of 10 citizens reaffirmed that Venezuela is a sovereign country that cannot be threatened by any foreign power. In addition, 88.9% of those polled considered the attacks against the nation constitute an attempt by the U.S. to promote a change of regime and overthrow the current government. In this context, the majority of Venezuelans surveyed also expressed their firm willingness to defend the country against an eventual foreign aggression. We stay in Venezuela, where the government will begin installing security cameras on fishing boats to protect them during their operations in the Venezuelan Caribbean. The Minister of the Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, announced that the National Institute of Aquatic Spaces will move forward with its strategy of installing cameras on all fishing boats with the aim of protecting fishermen. This came after the White House confirmed that during its military deployment in the Caribbean Sea, it kidnapped Venezuelan fishermen who were going about their daily work for 8 hours in order to plant drugs on them. However, Cabello emphasized that the operation could not be effective because the fishermen communicated and warned of what had happened, in addition to everything being recorded in real time. And also, the Venezuelan government denounced on Wednesday an attempted false flag operation orchestrated by the USDA agency that aimed to justify Washington's ongoing aggression against the Bolivarian nation. Precisely during a press conference, the Venezuelan Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, informed the seizure of a vessel which, according to its GPS data, had departed from Colombia and entered Venezuelan waters. Cabello added the investigation had revealed revealed the boat intended to then go north and get intercepted by the U.S. in a maneuver to justify a military action from Washington that fulfills its hegemonic aspirations across the Caribbean. Moreover, the Venezuelan authority unveiled that 4 people with Venezuelan identity cards were detained carrying no weapons, informing over 3,600 kilograms of cocaine had been seized during the operation. In this context, Cabello reiterated Venezuela's commitment to fight drug trafficking, adding that so far this year they have seized 60 tons of drugs in anti-drug operations across the nation. And Cuba denounced on Thursday the escalation of actions by the government of the United States that seeks to justify a military aggression against Venezuela. In an official statement, the Cuban government condemned that the accumulation and increase of military means and troops in the Caribbean Sea, the use of force to attack civilian vessels and kill their crew members, and the unjustified interception and detention of a ship in violation of international norms confirmed the hostile and irresponsible nature of the ongoing operation. In addition, the statement denounced how the real objective of these actions is to seize Venezuela's oil and resources, adding Cuba has repeatedly warned that the deployment in recent weeks of U.S. military forces in the Caribbean Sea constitutes an act of provocation and seeks to unleash a military conflict that would force Venezuela to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. In this context, the Cuban government warned that a direct military aggression against Venezuela would have incalculable consequences for the peace, stability and security of our America. Moreover, it stressed that a government may not be permitted to resort to the threat or use of force in contravention of the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law, stressing it is urgent to separate lies from reality and closing the communique by urging international mobilization to prevent aggression and preserve Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace, proclaimed by its head of state and government. And we stay in Cuba, where Cubans bid farewell on Wednesday to former Deputy Prime Minister Ricardo Cabrizas, who passed away on Tuesday in the capital, Havana. With a political career of over 6 decades to the service of the state and the Cuban Revolution, Cabrizas participated since his youth in the student struggle against the Batista dictatorship, and after the triumph of 1959, assumed responsibilities in the Navy and the Ministries of Interior and Foreign Trade. He was also ambassador to Japan, Minister of Government, Economy and Planning, and also Vice President of the Council of Ministers. Precisely, the posthumous tribute was held at the headquarters of the latter institution, where he spent a great portion of his professional and political life.
Un gran hombre.
Cabrizas, a great man, a great fighter, a great revolutionary, always thinking about how to solve problems, always managing in a practical way, very dynamic, and I believe that we should always remember him this way. Remember him working hard, working for Cuba, for all Cubans, looking for solutions and ways out of problems.
Buscando soluciones y salida a los problemas.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The third edition of the International Telecommunications Fair, FITELVEN, is underway at Caracas Polyhedron Arena. The fair, which will run until September 21st, brings together 144 companies, including 6 international ones, serving as a key platform for the exchange of knowledge and opportunities as well in the Latin American digital ecosystem. This global presence demonstrates the growing interest in Venezuela's technological development. In this scenario, FITELVEN serves as an opportunity to publicize and promote the country's potential in tech and innovation. In this context, during the first opening ceremony on Wednesday, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez highlighted the importance of the telecommunications sector as a driver of economic growth.
The fact that between the year 2024 and 2025, Conatel's qualifications have grown by 283%, that today there are already 292 private operators participating in this activity, reflects Venezuela's commitment. Never surrender, never allow ourselves to be subdued, extorted, blackmailed, or given orders. Venezuela is a free, sovereign, and independent country, and its economy says the same. The economy is free and independent. We are becoming more and more diversified from the oil income, which is very important, and this is why all the engines of the economy are engaged. And engine number 13 is the telecommunication engine, which already this first semester shows a contribution to the GDP of 7.13%, which is a good number. It is an extraordinary number.
And the Venezuelan National Assembly approved the project of the Strategic Association and Cooperation Treaty between Venezuela and Russia in defense of the sovereignty and peace of the South American nation. The ordinary session of the parliament was held from the Federal Legislative Palace in Caracas, where the installation of the National Council for National Sovereignty was supported. Other points discussed included the approval law of the Treaty of Association and Cooperation with Russia, which mainly establishes the self-determination of peoples as the basis for established cooperation relations. In addition, Venezuelan parliamentarians discussed the agreement condemning the Israeli attack on the capital of Qatar, Doha.
That is why we propose this agreement, brothers and sisters, and I ask all parliamentarians to support this agreement, and let us all go out to defend our right to exist, to live, to be a country that develops by itself, that resolves its affairs among the men and women of Venezuela, so that we can continue to build a path to prosperity.
In another legislative defeat for Argentinian President Javier Milei, the Senate overturned on Thursday his veto to the distribution of national treasury contributions known as the ATN Law. With 59 votes in favor, 9 against and 3 abstentions, the veto surpassed the two-thirds majority required. The current government maintains an administrative policy that accumulates the economic resources that belong to the provinces and distributes them at will. In this scenario, the ATN law passed by Congress at the end of August seeks a new framework for distributing national treasury funds among the regions. The motion will now move to the lower house, where a similar result is needed in order to formally nullify the veto. The decision adds to the list of defeats for the far-right head of state after the parliament rejected his vetoes on the pediatric emergency law and university funding this past Wednesday. On Wednesday in Ecuador, President Daniel Noboa reaffirmed his intention to call a constituent assembly to draft a new constitution. Noboa has stated that he intends to include a question on the call for a constituent assembly in the referendum planned for the end of 2025. On his X account, the president states that this measure is of utmost importance to return power to the people and end the institutional hijacking of the country. Noboa said he will send the question to the Constitutional Court so that if approved, it will be included in the popular consultation where citizens will decide whether or not they want a constituent assembly. Now we go to Guatemala, where more than 300 mayors urged President Bernardo Arévalo to approve Decree 7/2025, a law considered vital for the conclusion of community projects. According to the mayors, the law represents the only hope for communities to have essential infrastructure projects like those related to water, sanitation, health, and education, which could not be implemented in 2024. However, the government and other experts have expressed concern, warning that the law could be unconstitutional and weaken transparency controls on the use of public funds. President Arévalo's decision to approve or veto the decree is given to the continuity of local projects or the transparency of public spending. We have a second show break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Let's go to Haiti, where humanitarian organizations denounced a new escalation of violence on the northern coast of the country amidst the crisis of insecurity plaguing the population. They denounced the death of dozens of citizens, including women, children, and the elderly, at the hands of armed groups seeking to exacerbate the nation's instability. Humanitarian organizations demanded that national authorities dismantled armed gangs and provided compensation to survivors of the conflict. They also called for the protection of the population from the insecurity that Haiti has faced since 2018. And in France, several trade unions are holding a nationwide strike against the austerity measures implemented by Emmanuel Macron's government amid imminent budget cuts. Protesters are calling for the previous government's fiscal plans to be scrapped, increased spending on public services, higher taxes on the wealthy, and the reversal of an unpopular change, making people work longer to get a pension. Close to 1 million demonstrators from various sectors of the workforce are participating in the action, joined by students and populations in general. With nearly 80,000 police officers and gendarmes deployed, protesters have been repressed by the police, with 3 people reportedly injured so far and over 140 arrested in various locations throughout the nation. And with this information, we have come to the end of this is brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.